Good evening, folks. Freddie Vasquez. This is tonight. I'm back on with Anthony DiMaggio. Good evening, folks. I'm Freddie Vasquez. Help me welcome Anthony DiMaggio. No. Wrong sound bank, folks. I switched over to number sound bank 1.
Thanks for the warm welcome.
My wife, she takes advantage. Wait, hold up. Do this for me. My daughter had cookies. I'm like, get them out. I'm trying to make my coffee. My Bustelo.
Oh, I drank it for many years.
Good evening. Anyway, Anthony, how you doing, folks? Good evening again. What's going on? Talk to me. How you been?
Good. It was an interesting week.
Yeah.
After the last podcast, yeah.
I want to talk about that real quick. What's going on?
Yeah, well, that's actually what I wanted to talk about, I guess, primarily before we get into, I'm going to show you the first stipulation that they sent me when they were trying to cover up all the Jean Muller's dirt in my situation. Because as I said last podcast, we started off by saying that Yonkers is cover-up city.
Yeah.
So if there is what I would call a very passive, partial cover-up that took the form of delaying Stephen Dolan's capture while his body cleansed itself of his blood alcohol content, then you can't count on the mayor or anybody around here to actually ask tough questions of the police brass and actually try to find the truth.
That stuff comes from the top. You say that all the time.
Right, and the reason that you can't count on the mayor to do anything about it is because is he gonna launch an investigation into his police brass who know that he covers things up on a daily basis?
Right.
And I'm going to show you how he does it. But some people were reaching out after the last podcast. I heard from some people I haven't heard from in a long time.
And really quick, he's referring to the podcast we did. We spoke about C.J. Hackett, that case, the investigation.
Yeah, it was very popular. Did a lot of views. Yeah. I spoke to one woman I went to grade school with who actually knows Stephen Dolan. Because, I shared the podcast to my page on Facebook and she watched it and she reached out to me. She goes, I know him a lot of years, She goes, he really is a sweetheart of a guy, but he made a big mistake. So that was the first person that I had actually known who knew him personally very well. And actually did say a lot of nice things about him, but even she understood that he did make a big mistake, and
right.
He's got to pay the price.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there have also been some more developments on the interaction between the detective division and the Solieris. John Morello, the major case lieutenant, reached out to Tony Solieri again on Saturday, the day after the podcast, with basically just the same old pitch that Anthony DiMaggio is disgruntled and he's misleading you and he can't be trusted and all this stuff. And John's actually a distant relative of mine.
Oh,
I remember that. Yeah, somebody reminded me of that. I'd forgotten that. Not really. I mean, they were cousins and then they were cousins. You know what I mean? So
Vinny Spano's best friend type cousins.
Yeah. So John and his brothers are actually distant cousins of mine on I think my grandmother's side, and he's a CLSA board member. Kept his mouth shut, didn't say a word while I was getting terminated under the most ridiculous and unjustified circumstances. Nothing personal against John, but he's where he is. He's the major case lieutenant down at the detective division because he's massively steamed up with the Spano crime family, as are his brothers. One of whom I went to high school with, Tommy. Love Tommy. He's definitely steamed up.
How do you get steamed up, right? Like, how do you become someone that's steamed up? Like you got a lot of steam. How does that happen over time?
It's just, the friends and family network. In their particular case, there are 3 Morello brothers. They're all supervisors now. The youngest one, Mike, I think his name is Mike. He's a sergeant in the Internal Affairs Division. Actually, one of the couple of Internal Affairs guys that came to serve me my termination paperwork at my house in Dutchess County in November of 2021. Tommy is I think the middle brother, and like I said, I know Tommy a long time. I went to high school with him, and he was just in the photo with the officer who tragically passed away, Dell.
Mm.
Dell had just made detective a couple of weeks ago. Tommy Morello was also in that photo on the Yonkers Police Department's social media pages. They made detective together, but Tommy was already a sergeant, so he made, I think, detective specialist, which basically means he was just assigned to the crime scene unit as a supervisor. Also a steam spot. So all the Morellos are all steamed up. And
But I mean, how do you get, like, do you have to do things, like, in the mob, right? We talk about the mob, if you do earn enough, if you're an earner, right, you get to move up if you earn a lot of
right,
money for the Don, or if you
or
maybe
a
kill
killer.
people.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that they're killing people or nothing like that, but what is it that they're
Well,
doing?
and with the politics, like you said, the city government is the Spanos LLC, right? It's their racket.
Yeah.
So the way that these positions are filled, especially in the investigations bureau within the police department, is by people who are political patrons or loyalists, as the Spanos like to call it, right? So the Morellos, I want to say their grandfather was at one point the head of the civil service department. I think that's the connection. And he's dear friends with the Spano family. Or to be honest with you, I don't even know if he's still alive. But whether or not he is, at one point he was the head of the civil service department, I believe, and that's the connection. He's very, very dear friends with the Spanos, just like some other people we're going to talk about tonight. So John is, from what Tony Solieri told me, John was not really too thrilled about, he didn't seem to be too thrilled about being in on the conversation when they called him down to the detective division before last podcast. Yeah, that's Dell. Dell was great, man.
Yeah, really quick, I just want to show the officer that passed away. Apparently he had a medical condition while he was driving. He was in a car. And so my condolences to the family.
Yeah, absolutely. That was great, man. I played golf with him a few times. I played basketball with him a few times, and
he's got a basketball there in that picture.
Yeah, he liked to play. He was surprised at how good I can shoot.
Yeah, 48 years old, very young, and it's sad, man, to hear that such a young guy, man.
Yeah, there's a GoFundMe page for him if anybody would like to donate. I'll share the link on my Facebook page after the podcast tonight.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely share it also if I once you post it up
for his family. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
And so yeah, he got promoted to detective just a couple of weeks ago. Tommy Morello was standing next to him in that picture, and he made detective specialist as this is the assignment I think they give to the CSU guys. So yeah, so John was, for some reason they told John to reach out on Saturday after last week's podcast, and he said something. If Tony Solieri is passing accurate messages to me, and I'm sure he is, accurate information about the conversations that he's having with these people, John basically put the question to him, Tony, about whether or not those cameras on McLean Avenue right in front of the accident location were even there at the time. And Tony told him, well, you're asking me? Isn't that your job to know that? Because if they were there, that means a whole lot of people who were working that night didn't do their job.
Right.
And as a result of it, the next of kin of two retired detectives was the recipient of an enormously consequential benefit. Specifically, your failure to catch him in time to get his blood alcohol content. Okay, so you should know that. You're asking me. I'm a civilian.
Right. And that would be part of the the investigation, right? I mean, something like that. You're going to start going. So they're going to send some officers to start counting the cameras, seeing if they can get the footage.
For about 10 years now, the second step at a crime scene, the first step is always rendering aid to the injured.
Right.
Okay. The second step is, if you want to go by the book, it's securing the scene, making sure the scene is safe and things like that. But when you get actually down to brass tacks and you start investigating, the first thing for about the last 10 years is, where are the damn cameras?
Right.
And as I said, last podcast, as I said last podcast, as a patrol supervisor, when you have a serious case like a homicide, a big case, that something's going to be high profile, the report is going to be on the commissioner's desk the second he walks in, if he doesn't come in on a recall himself. The sergeant is not going to sign it unless the cops, the primary patrol unit, okay, has at least located and noted the location of 2 or 3 cameras, surveillance cameras in the report. It's so critical. They want it in the reports so badly that even if you make a good faith effort, you peel the whole neighborhood 3 times over, and you go back to the sergeant and say, "Sarge, I just can't find a camera anywhere." He's gonna go like this. He's gonna, the world's smallest violin. He's gonna say, "Are you done? Are you done
Right.
complaining? Good. Now go out and find 2 cameras. I don't
Well,
care if you
could
gotta
it
go
be
10 miles away."
could it be that, as you said, that they have to, at least put two, what you said, 4 cameras in their report and locate them? They
There's no
located,
minimum by policy. It's just it's in practice. The
right. Well,
sergeant
let's say
in a high
maybe,
profile case of homicide of a 16-year-old
right.
kid.
Maybe
You know,
let's say maybe that's why he asked that question, right? Maybe because in their report they did include that the location of certain cameras, but just not those cameras that were right there
but
where it
they didn't
actually
know
happened.
because I read the report.
Did they mention those
I
cameras?
read the patrol report. Now, the detective division reports are going to be much more difficult to
I
get my
got
hands
you.
on. I'm probably never going to see those because the entire investigations bureau more or less hates me right now. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And
But he's
so,
asking the question as if he didn't make note of them in the report.
well,
And
as I said on the last podcast, the patrol officer who wrote the report wrote that they had canvassed, I guess, a witness or a person canvassed or something who had partial footage of something. Doesn't really describe what they had partial footage of in the patrol report. But then there's a follow up sentence that says the assigned officers, and that's nobody uses first person pronouns. I always did. I would say I searched for additional cameras
right.
and found whatever. Most cops don't write reports like that. They say the assigned. They refer to themselves as the assigned officers. So it says the assigned officers canvassed, which just means searched for additional footage or cameras, and were unsuccessful at this time. To me, that's unacceptable.
Right.
Okay, it's unacceptable
Wow.
to not find any cameras when they're all you had to basically do was look across the damn street.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're
You
all
know,
over.
right? And what that says to me is that
Wow.
there was intentional neglect of the cameras because the cameras are going to lead to the plate, which is going to lead to his house, which is going to lead to him, which is going to lead to him being down at the hospital, being strapped to a bed if need be, while the nurse comes over with a needle and takes blood out of his veins.
Mm.
Okay, so those cameras lead to the plate, lead to the home, lead to him, lead to the blood alcohol content. Remember,
Can
they
they delete the
choice.
footage of those cameras?
I think that would be very difficult and very stupid of them to even try to do. I mean, I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't know if the Ocularis client program even has that capability. It may. I mean, if they see, now we're talking about something that I maybe wasn't too clear about last week, and some of the retired guys.
No excuses. There are over 29 cameras and 4 more of Yonkers' finest cameras. I know for a fact that one of McLean Ave was down, but the other 3 should have gotten a plate within hours.
No, within minutes.
Within minutes, yeah, right.
Yeah, within minutes, because like I said, the cops can access that footage right from their cell phones. And if I was working that night, if those are really city cameras right along that on that building right where the accident location was, those might not be, but even the cameras over on the intersection where the bar is. If I was the radio room lieutenant that night, I don't know who it was, and I'm not saying he did a bad job or anything like that. He may not even be familiar with the camera system, or she, or whoever it was. I don't know. But if those are city cameras, then as the cops are going to that job at 12:15, I'm going to be in the program like I was on that footage that I showed you. I'm going to be in the program,
Right.
looking at the cameras,
Right away.
pausing it, zooming in on the plate, and I'm going to tell the dispatcher to put the plate number over the air, probably before they even get to the scene. You know what I mean? That's something that was not done. Now, even if the radio room lieutenant doesn't do it,
Go ahead.
yeah,
The
they did.
brass made a very big mistake by bringing me in and telling me to go out and do my homework.
Right.
And you did. And he went and counted the cameras. So they're actually 29 plus 4.
Well, yeah, that's Carolyn is including the cameras like on the outsides of stores and restaurants and bars and things like that. So she's counting private business cameras as well. But what Morello was asking was, those city cameras. that I showed on the podcast that me and you showed. Or were they even there back then? He's asking Tony. And Tony said to him, well, you should know that. So Morello said, you're right. I'll find out and I'll get back to you. I'll call you back. Never called him back.
Never called back.
So to me, that tells me that Morello probably found out that they were there. And even if they weren't there, why would you just not say that to the Solieris who have been asking about it for months?
Right.
They've given the excuse that they were down. They were all down. All right, that's nonsense. Then they gave them the excuse that they're only hooked up to the mobile command center, which is creative. I'll give you that. It's a creative excuse, but it's bullshit. Because I proved that last week that you can watch that stuff from the radio room. So if they weren't there, don't you think they would know that? If they weren't there at the time, don't you think the police supervisors, the detective division supervisors who were responsible for making sure that their detectives conduct a thorough and appropriate investigation, don't you think they should know whether or not the cameras were there and the detectives did their job that night?
Absolutely. I mean, that's vital in finding out who it was.
So if they weren't there, you could have just said that to the Solieri. Those are brand new cameras. They weren't there.
Right.
How simple is that? But John never got back to Tony.
It's coming down to 3 options.
Yeah, what are they, Tony? I think I can guess.
Yeah. So I mean, they can subpoena though. Let's say the family gets a lawyer. They can subpoena that footage from those city cameras.
Yeah.
And then if they get the footage, if they get the footage and then they watch and it clearly shows the van and the plate. I mean, then
a couple of days after the last podcast, CJ's mother, Yvonne, reached out to me. Okay. We spoke about a lot of things. Lovely woman. She's obviously very emotional. Obviously. And, she said to me that the DA called her down there and she went with an attorney, which, I can tell you right now, if she went with an attorney, they probably didn't like it. But because it makes it tougher to bullshit her.
But it's the right thing.
Right. She went to see the DA under the promise of being able to view footage when she got there. When she got there, she didn't get to view any footage. She basically was, as she told it to me, she was only supposed to meet with a couple of people, James Bavero and then his supervisor, John O'Rourke. And but when she got there was a half a dozen or maybe 8 or 10 people, counselors of all sorts and everything like that. And I stuff that she didn't have a whole lot of interest in. She went
like grief counselors?
Yeah.
Really?
Right. Well, this is what she told me. And,
wow.
She went there to view footage and didn't get to view any footage. So, I mean, my advice to Morello and Pat McCormick and Joe Mock would be, if you're going to keep reaching out to these people, all right, let go of the Anthony DiMaggio who is a disgruntled employee and is misleading you narrative. Right. Because I'm not misleading you. Okay. Right. I'm not telling anybody that there was definitely a cover up or anything like that. I don't have knowledge of that. What I'm saying is that it kind of looks that way. And,
but they don't need you to tell them that. I mean, so it's not like you're putting that in their head.
I'm saying that, this situation wasn't even really on my radar until that podcast that you did where he called in and I made a couple of comments and they seemed to freak out about it because they took steps that are highly unusual. They brought him down there and they fed him a bunch of nonsensical information and lies to the questions that he asked. So now you're making yourself look guilty.
Right.
Okay. And we're going to get to Joe Mock in a minute because he's a special case.
Well, the problem is, though, Anthony, that and this is what, I've spoken to people about this, is that this podcast is not something that they're used to. So, us going on here and then talking about it, right? It's just, now we're hearing the information. I'm talking about it. They're calling up. You're hearing about it. You're saying, wait, that doesn't sound right. You're giving your input and then it starts to spread that way. And so they can't control it. Right. And this is what's great about this, what we're doing here.
And, to anybody who's eager to buy into the narrative that I'm just disgruntled and I'm trying to hurt them, I want people to understand that this is the same bureau within the department that I was complaining about on the night that I got into an argument with Louis Venturino. And they started sowing the seeds of my, destruction.
Right.
It's the same kind of stuff that I was complaining about that night. Right. I was complaining about nonfeasance. Okay. Failure to perform duties within the Investigations Bureau. So the Investigations Bureau, the detective sergeant in the Investigations Bureau, who's dear friends with the clown face creep John Mueller, got together with him, and they started planning my demise using my daughter's mother, who works in the investigations bureau, against me. Okay, so this is nothing new. The same thing I'm
Right.
complaining about now, or I'm raising
Right.
questions about now, is the same thing I was doing that night.
Right.
I don't know why they thought they were going to shut me up by firing me. You know, at this point, they're just going to have to kill me.
And that's, that's important to note. I'm glad you mentioned that, Anthony, because, Anthony's not a disgruntled, and they tried to say that about me. Someone made a comment and said that I have some issue with Tasha, I have a vendetta or whatever. It's not that, right? It's that we're exposing what's corrupt, what's wrong with the, the system here. And you are connecting it. You're making the correlation. You're showing that, your situation is exactly what's happening here in this situation, and which is why it's important that you speak about your situation, right? So for those, because I've gotten messages and maybe an email or two in regards to you, Anthony, and the podcast, and saying, oh, why do you have Anthony DiMaggio on? And and I don't buy into it. I don't subscribe to that, what they're saying. And they just obviously is probably somebody that just doesn't want you on talking. But if it's not, and maybe someone is honestly just saying that, the reason why is because Anthony DiMaggio's story exposes a larger problem, right? Of this corruption, this retaliation, these cover-ups and stuff that they do. And so unless we stop it, it's going to continue to happen. And here now we see it again in this incident with CJ Hackett. So that's why Anthony's talking about his situation, because it does apply to a lot of situations that has happened here and will continue to happen. I just wanted to get that out there and, and say that, because I've had people send me messages about it. And,
Yeah. So, and, Morello also told,
really quick, I had a test one done last week, which proves that the doctors converse do work, and police officers have access. The doctor's camera, do work, and the police officers have access to them all the times. I had an individual by the DPW lowdown stared at the place within 2 hours. Doors, what they were doing down there. Well, that person drive by slowly, and you're gonna tell me you can't find van, that truck. I'm sorry. Maybe I do that with my talk text. His case should be taken out of Westchester County. I agree. One, it's cover up for Dolan. Two, very bad police work. Three, cover up that it was possible a Yonkers DPW van. And I said that, and I mentioned that. I actually said that at the beginning. I said, was it a DPW van? Was it a city vehicle? But that was the three options or three things. I
received information that I have yet to confirm through other sources that it was not a DPW van, that it was his. But I don't know that for a fact.
I mean, it's just ironic or coincidence, not ironic, but a coincidence. That's a white van.
No, it wasn't a white van. It was a dark colored van, and apparently the way that Pat McCormick, allegedly stumbled upon it and identified it as possibly the suspect vehicle parked on the sidewalk over at Lake Avenue and Somer River Road, is that it had a different colored door. There's only one little problem, though. As far as I understand, that information, that very, very valuable piece of information, was not in the patrol report. And the patrol guys who are writing the report, they need to know that, because their report that they write is going to go on the clipboard behind the desk. It's going to be read at roll calls until that van is found. It's going to be sent to other precincts and other cops coming in for the day shift that morning. And basically every roll call for every shift thereafter, that report is going to be read. The vehicle description is going to be given out. So that's a wildly important piece of information that was not in the patrol report.
Yeah,
if it was, and I was wrong,
easily.
Someone please tell me. But
yeah, and that would help you spot it easier. Absolutely. Because of that, that anomaly with the different colored door. And so then I think back up to the night when it happened. And, did they catch him? Because they said, well, it was the wrong person or had something to do with something else. I don't know. But obviously, it was a very distinct car because of that fact now, even more
Pat
so.
McCormick seemed to be the only one who knew about it. That's why that's why it's fishy.
Last week, I tested the Yonkers cameras per the chief. I was told to do my homework, so I did. I had somebody drive by the DPW on Sawmill Road very slow, out, pull in the parking lot, and leave. Within 2 hours, that person had to police officers banging on the door, wanted to know what they were doing there within 2 hours. But you can't F with Brandon Easley, a young boy in 72. Right. So he basically saying is that they saw somebody go there and they found them right away, same day. The police went to that person's house, but you can't, Yeah.
Right. It was somebody who they when they saw, I guess when they saw the camera of this person doing a little snooping around down there, they realized that this person was on top of this case.
Yeah.
So apparently, what they did was they got the plate, or maybe they just knew where this person lived by face. I don't know.
Listen.
And they sent cops to this person's house.
Yeah.
Basically, to say,
harass.
what were you doing down there? And this is what I told this person. I said, listen, those cops are not doing that of their own volition. Somebody's telling them to do that. So what you tell them is, you say, look, we're officers, all due respect, I love you guys, I support you guys.
Yeah.
But whoever it is that's sending you down here, tell them to go do a certain thing to themselves.
Yeah.
Because I got nothing to say to them. Okay.
That's what I'm saying. You know, we have to, you know, officers, you know, do not do this stuff on behalf of individuals up higher up. But I want to say that they do spot people on the cameras. They have programming. I am convinced, facial recognition. I went into the PAL to meet with the person that runs the PAL program there. You know, I was doing a pizza thing for the kids. And as soon as I left, they called her up and asked her what I was doing there. Right. They're like, why is Freddie Vasquez there? Yeah. And then another thing that's strange, and, you know, after November 18th was when I had the issue at my daycare center. And since that day, all the parking that was in traffic court, I had all these, I started getting tickets on all the cameras. Boom, 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 boom. So they're tracking my plate, I believe. So they can definitely identify plates and stuff like that and face and all that. So I can't imagine why it took them so long to find this guy. The mother of this child is a good friend of her. She is shattered. Yeah. She's very shattered. And this is why we have to vote for change, Yonkers.
So, yeah, I mean, look, the bottom line is this. What I was going to say is, Morello, McCormick, Monaco, if you're going to keep reaching out to these people, stop trying to discredit me and start answering questions, okay? Because, you know, somebody told me, you know, there's different time frames. It was 3 days later they caught him. Someone said 2 days. Someone said a day and a half. So it doesn't matter. Even if it was a day and a half, still more than enough time for these biochemical processes to cleanse his body of the evidence that was necessary to doing this right. Okay. And he is who he is. He is a relative of these people. So you can understand why these questions are being asked. Stop trying to discourage people from asking them, and stop trying to discredit me, and just start answering them. Okay. A lot of things that are standard operating procedure, when someone steals a bag of potato chips from the corner store, were not done that night. And as a result of them not being done, Stephen Dolan, Joe's kid, is going to end up doing all right in this situation, a lot better than he probably should have. So you have to answer questions whether you like it or not. And if you should decide to continue trying to discredit me, you go ahead and you tell Miss Hackett or the Soliaries anything that you'd like to about me, okay? Because people are not stupid. Do they care that I'm living World War III with my daughter's mother? They don't care. They know that everybody has problems, okay? When we go through the report that you had that quack up at the IMA clinic right up, everyone's going to see what bullshit it is, and we're going to start doing that, I think, next week. So your efforts to discredit me are failing. You're losing not only the information war, you're losing the credibility war, okay? And you're losing it against a guy who you're going around telling people allegedly was terminated because he's psychologically unfit to do his job or whatever. And, you know, so you're not doing very well. The Soliaries are seeing through your bullshit even before they come ask me. So, I mean, start answering questions. And I advised Ms. Hackett, I said, did you speak to Mimi personally? Because you should ask to. And you should bring these concerns to her directly. Don't talk to someone who works. Huh? She said no. She said that she has not. I said you should ask to. Because, you know, she would be the one to talk to if you want to express some of these concerns. I doubt Mimi would ever want to talk to me, but if she did, I would talk to her. But you know, I'm toxic. See, that's kind of the beautiful thing about being in the position that I'm in, is because I allegedly failed the psychological evaluation. I'm almost by default not credible, even though I am, and the people who talk to me know that I am. But as far as like a court proceeding or an official investigation, no one would ever want to use anything that I'm saying because, you know, apparently this doctor who works for the city says I'm ubats.
The fact that they're trying to, you know, that they're so focused on trying to convince the family of a certain narrative, rather, like you said, than answering questions, and they're more focused on trying to discredit you and, you know, say why you're, you know, giving them advice or answering questions that they have. And obviously they're going to you because they're not getting answers from the investigators, right? That just says a lot also, to the detectives. The fact that you're trying to convince the family of something else when they're trying to find the answers, right? I called Mimi and left messages and never got a call back. Yeah.
So I think that what happened was, and we're going to get into Cognatello in a second because someone reminded me that he knows at least he knows Bob Dolan on a personal level. That's Stephen's uncle. He may not know Joe directly, personally. He would know who he is and all, but he definitely knows Bob at least. And so it may not have even been necessary for Pat McCormick to get a call while he was sleeping that night. Cognatello, certainly Hollywood. Hollywood has been on even longer than I have, and these guys would recognize the Dolan brothers. They might even know that one of them had a son named Stephen. So they wouldn't need permission from McCormick to go ahead and just start pumping the brakes on the investigation. No cameras, no plates.
Right.
We'll find his car in a couple of days using a description. Because if we pull the plate now, there's no excuse for not going to get him. Now it's a possibility that the plate may have been run, and at that point maybe they realized who they were dealing with. If that's the case, that's a real problem because there's going to be a record of who ran that plate. Okay. Maybe not.
Just a record that it was ran to be in the first place. So they
right. So if I'm wrong, if it wasn't an intentional neglect to find and view camera footage, then somebody needs to say that. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to, Tony Solieri last week, he made a comment. He was saying, if I'm wrong, I'll be the first person to apologize. So you got nothing to apologize for. All you're doing is asking questions.
Right.
Okay. And if they come out with the answers and they show you the steps that they took and they show you the reasons why they weren't able to get a plate and get to his house in time or,
right. Exactly. Just
then
show
you say,
it
okay, thank you for answering the questions. That's it. You don't have to apologize for anything. You're allowed to ask for accountability.
Right.
Now Cognatello, somebody reminded me of this when I was in the 3rd precinct in 2011. I got out of the academy in 2007 and I went straight to the 3rd precinct on the late shift, the midnight shift, which is the shift that this happened on. By 2011, I was working on the early tour. That's the 3 to 11. Okay. And on Friday nights after the 3 to 11 shift, a bunch of us young guys and girls on the job, we would go bowling over at Homefield Bowling Alley. And this went on for like months, and it was a lot of fun. And that's when I first started seeing Anthony Cognatello. He would come bowling on these Friday nights at Homefield Bowling Alley. And I didn't know who he was. So I remember asking somebody, I don't remember who it was. It might have been Steve Donahue. Who's this guy? You want us? And somebody told me, yeah, he's on the day shift. He works the day tour. So when Cognatello got out of the academy, I think around 2010 or 11, he went straight to the day shift in the 3rd precinct, which is the 7 to 3, right? Now, Bob Dolan was a sergeant on my shift on the 3 to 11. So they would at the very least see each other every day.
Right.
When, at shift change. And of course, there would be other times, obviously, where Bob Dolan is going to work the day tour on overtime or a swap or something. And then Cognatello was going to work the early tour on overtime or a swap or something. So everybody who works in the same precinct, even if you don't work the same shift, you all know each other.
Yeah,
you know what
absolutely.
I mean?
Absolutely.
Right. So I know that he knows Bob for sure. I don't know if he knows Joe.
I definitely they have to know each other. I mean, again, not to be best friends or even really close friends, but they know each other. I'm sure. I have spoken to several high-ranking police officers from different boroughs in different towns. One thing that I can't get over is that when I was called into the principal's office, the chief of police explained to me on day 3, Captain McCormick found the van. Then they sat on the van so they can control and narrate the situation. They did not want to move on him right away. They did not want the wrong people to get him. All these officers that I know say that's crazy. That guy was not a drug dealer, right? Like why would they sit on it and like it's a stakeout or something? The crime's already been committed. They know that's the guy. You arrest him.
Because they have to sell the idea that they didn't know who it was, right? So here it can't be we get the plate and we know who it is, who the registered owner is and where to find them and all that stuff. That's way too quick. He needs time to sober up. So what it has to be is we're gonna find the vehicle, we're gonna find it by description a couple of days later, and then we're gonna sit on it and we're gonna pretend we don't know who it belongs to. All right. Of course, when they find it, they'll run the plate, and then they'll see all the information that they've been trying to avoid for 2 days. And again, that's if I'm right about all of this. This is what it would look like. If it's not, they need to answer questions. It's that simple. They
Right.
seem to not want to answer questions. They're giving bullshit answers to the questions that they're being asked. And now it appears that they've gone totally mute. Okay, they haven't reached out to Tony Solieri since John Morello told him, "I'll get back to you about whether or not those cameras were there on Saturday when he spoke to him."
They probably have a gag order now, right, from the top.
Just
don't even call them. Don't call them back
stop
in.
talking. You're doing what attorneys advise clients not to do with the police.
Especially guilty
Stop
ones.
talking yourself into trouble, giving bullshit answers. Just stop talking. Stop talking to the police. Okay. Now it's the police who have stopped talking to the witnesses asking questions.
Look at that.
Yeah. So Cognatello, I don't know how he ended up at the DD. I don't know who his hook is. My daughter's mother, who also worked the day tour in the 3rd Precinct at the time, I remember she was not a big fan of his. She had a nickname for him. I'm not going to say it. I have nothing personal against the guy. I don't really know him. But she would say that he was very, what's the word I'm looking for? He strongly desired to be in with the in crowd. Like he was always trying to do things to, be part of the boys club and things like that. So if he did it in patrol all those years ago, I have no doubt that he's doing it down at the DD too. And in a way, I feel bad for the guy because the culture is so shit over at the Investigations Bureau that if you're not like that, God knows where you're going to end up.
What do you mean by that? If you're not like that, if you're not,
well, it's still very primitive. The culture over at the Investigations Bureau. It's the boys club. You know what I mean? Like I said, that's where all the steam is. It's back when Edmund Harden and Chucky Garner started making all these changes to the way patrol is scrutinized and held accountable back in 2011, 2012. All right. See, and when politicians talk about holding the police accountable and police training and stuff, they're talking about uniformed cops. They're talking about patrol.
Right.
People forget that there's a whole other side to law enforcement, that people walking around in suit and ties.
Right.
And that they have a hell of a lot of power and that they should be watched too.
That's true. I mean, and ultimately it starts at the top. I mean, leadership.
When patrol started becoming more scrutinized, when they started putting in all these additional layers of checks and balances, things like the self-reporting use of force form, YPD 90, I think it's a 91. The body cameras, all of these things to really regulate the behavior of patrol cops. A lot of the guys who didn't like it, who weren't used to it, they started looking for the door, one of several doors. Okay. A lot of them got promoted and moved up. Some of them, a lot of them started, that too. They started putting in their papers and retiring if they could. And some of them started looking to move laterally into the Investigations Bureau to get out of sight and out of mind. Some of them who never had an inkling to do a bit of investigative work in their life. But there's less scrutiny. There's a stipend, $10,000, $12,000. There's built-in overtime. You're not wearing a rig. You're not wearing a vest. You're not chasing the radio all day. So there's a hell of a lot of comfort once you move on to the Investigations Bureau. And because of that, because Spano knows that, he uses those spots within the Investigations Bureau to reward people for political patronage, to satisfy friends of his in the friends and family network, their kids, stuff like that. So, and you have to remember, there's no test in Yonkers to become a detective. There's no, in some jurisdictions, you have an investigator's exam. They don't have that. Yeah, they don't have that in Yonkers.
Do you think it'd be a good idea that they implemented one?
Oh, absolutely. But it would royally F things up for the Spanos. Royally.
Oh, that's
how they buy loyalty, by giving out the positions that people want. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, there we go. That's another thing we're going to implement.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big problem, in my opinion. So, some retired cops said to me, that podcast, he's like, I don't know, bro. If people watch it, they'll think the Yonkers Police Department is the most corrupt department in the country. I said, absolutely not. That is not the point that I'm trying to get across. Not even close.
Right.
Okay. I don't think, I think that.
Well, state your point clearly. What is your point?
Right. That there is this hidden hierarchy which was responsible for me going down. Okay, and there are a number of people in the department, really by way of the positions that they hold, that get away with a hell of a lot. Okay, and there are different bureaus, there are different units, all are held to different standards, all have different jobs. So you can't just roll the entire department into one ball and say it's all corrupt. It's not. It's really not. I mean, I witnessed it myself over the last few years of my career, how good these young cops are. They really are. Chucky Garner changed everything. Like I said, he wants them college educated. It's
Right.
like that scene from what's that movie? Where Leo DiCaprio plays Hoover. J. Edgar Hoover. It was J. Edgar is the name of the movie, I think, right? And he's talking to I think it was the president. And he's telling him, this if you want me to run the FBI, this is what I want to do. He wanted to raise the bar for the hiring standards. And the president said, "Yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way." That's what Chucky did.
Right.
So there's been an influx of a new breed of cop, and the older breed, many, many, many of them retired, but a lot of them got promoted, and a lot of them moved laterally into the investigations bureau, and are now out of sight and out of mind, and they have an old school way of thinking, of doing things. You know what I mean?
So how does this impact the people, right? The people of the city of Yonkers. So, people watching, because that's, a lot of people say, okay, how does that affect me, right? How, why it's important that you tell this because it affects them, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, in time, all of the pre-Chucky cops will be gone. All right, they're going to be lingering around, running the department for the time being. How does it affect you on a daily basis? On a daily basis, it's not going to have an enormous effect on the average person's life. But in situations like this, you know, it might. I mean, look at Miss Hackett. She doesn't live in
Right.
Yonkers, but if she did, she's very distraught. She feels like there's an injustice being done, and I'm very clear to her that this is just my theories, and these are the questions that need to be answered. I'm not telling her for sure that this is what happened.
Right. I think by calling me in, they were hoping to get a lot of information from me. Anybody who knows me, I'm very hot-headed. But when I stay calm, I think it took him by surprise because they gave me more information and they got nothing on me or from me.
Right. So the Investigations Bureau does what it wants.
Listen, it's as simple. If I'm wrong, then I will apologize to the YPD, but they need to know how it looks from a civilian point of view. This is about a young boy who lost his life at the hands of a drunk driver.
You got nothing to apologize for. You don't have to apologize for asking questions.
Right.
You're perfectly within your rights to say this is what it looks like is going on. Now explain to me why I'm wrong. And if they do a good job of explaining it, then you could say, okay, thank you. You don't have to apologize. So yeah, I mean, the corruption in the department is at the higher ranks within the Investigations Bureau. And it's not corruption like there was decades ago where they're robbing drug dealers and throwing people in the river and things like that. It's not like that. It's this kind of stuff. It's they exercise this autonomy, this extreme discretion where they can get away with murder largely because they work with the DA's office on a daily basis. So what's the DA's office really going to do?
I mean, the DA came through Yonkers. I mean, it's all politics at the end of the day. I mean, she stood with them,
Yeah,
campaign,
and I'm not bashing. Listen, I know Mimi is in a tough spot here. I'm not trying to shit on her. I'm really not. She's in a tough spot. But she should answer some. Of these
not really.
questions
If you just do your job, it's not tough.
Well, she should answer some of these questions if the police brass is not going to.
Right.
And that's it. I mean, there's holding public office comes with a lot of responsibility. It's a burden, but that's their problem, not ours. I'm a civilian now, so I'm going to do my. Oh, by the way, we have to stop all that talk of Anthony DiMaggio being the police commissioner if Freddie wins, becomes the mayor.
Yeah,
that's not going to happen.
Somebody said that to me. Yeah,
that's not going to happen. I told you. I have absolutely no interest whatsoever. But I would be a friend, and
because people like you. People like what you have to say.
Yeah, I mean, I could give you a list of people who I think would be great for it from within the department. But as for me, no, thank you. So Joe Mock, apparently, that's what he calls himself, Joe Mock. He's the chief of the Investigations Bureau. He did play a role a sort of passive role in what went on with me. If you remember some of the first emails that we were going through many podcasts ago, there was this long email chain with 20 emails in it. The first one was from me to him with a few other people, courtesy copied.
Right.
And I told him, look, this guy left me a nasty voicemail. All right, I got some beefs, I got some complaints. I didn't voluntarily tell him that I was insulting people in text messages to my daughter's mother that night. I figured we're going to get to that. They're going to tell him about that. Why do I have to tell him about that? And then it'll be part of the discussion. I wasn't trying to hide it, but I didn't mention it overtly. So I said, look, there's this wild voicemail. This guy's a little out of control. I don't like some of the things that are going on over there in the investigations bureau. And he said, okay, I'll look into it. 9 minutes later, sends me an email that I'll definitely look into this. Save the voicemail. I want to hear it. Okay.
Yeah.
Then the email chain goes on and on and on. Then there's an email where John Mueller is courtesy copied. All of a sudden, Joe Mock hits the reply to all button. So it comes to me too. And then he adds Mueller's name into the courtesy copy box. Now I get the email and Joe Mock is doing a total about face, right? I don't want anything to do with this. Brett Campanini, who was the detective captain at the time down to the detective division, he doesn't want anything to do with it. IAD doesn't want anything to do with it. We're going to kick it over to Timmy Hodges. Okay, so he's taking orders to change his mind.
So when you say kicking over to Timmy Hodges, right? Like, how does everybody just pass this around? Like, what do you mean? Like, in what way? What were they not wanting to deal with?
They were not wanting to do the right thing, because Joe Mock was then and is now the chief of the investigations bureau. If there's anybody who should be doing a little internal investigation into the behavior of a detective sergeant,
right,
it's him.
Right. Okay.
Because Louis Venturino worked in the investigations bureau. He didn't work in the field services bureau, where Timmy Hodges was the chief.
And so they kicked it over to him, though.
Right. That was just Mueller's, crafty little way of trying to shit can my portion of the complaint, out of sight and out of mind. Have Anthony write up his complaint on a supervisor's form, and then we'll just send it through the shredder. Nice and simple. But Joe Mock, his heart seemed to be in the right place, but he couldn't follow through. Now Mueller's a screwball. He's got many nicknames that I give him. One of them is Screwball Jones. He's Screwball Jones. I mean, if Joe Mock would have stood up and said, I don't like what you're doing with this guy. He made a complaint about Louis. There was a lot of fighting back and forth. Both sides are culpable. There's really no reason for you to be doing what you're doing to him. He would have been at the clinic. He probably would have been demoted to captain if he had done something like that, because Mueller's just that nuts. So that's one thing. It's one thing to be passive and cowardly, but to talk to Tony Solieri and whoever else and to try to assault my character, because now I'm helping them scrutinize you. So you want to discredit me? There's a lot I could say about Joe Mock that I'm not going to say.
They have to discredit you, right?
But what I am going to do is I am going to show you one thing to attest to his.
And it's not just you saying it to the to Tony Solieri. It's and even just the family of CJ Hackett, his mom. It's you saying it to everybody that watches the podcast.
Right. Absolutely.
That's really what it is.
Now, take a look at this. I'm going to give you a little backstory to what it is I'm about to send you here. Let me just make the attachment.
Again, as we said, folks, speaking out and putting the information out is actually the biggest thing that they fear. And so Anthony coming on here has been a big issue for them. Absolutely. You're exposing a lot of things that they just do not want. And then now you add, the investigation of CJ Hackett and things that you've been saying about that.
Right.
Really damaging.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they should have, after that podcast where he popped up, Tony Solieri popped up on your podcast and was just saying things, they should have just let it run its course and just not even acknowledge it. They should have just shut their mouths, because the more they talk, the more they raise suspicion about themselves.
Right.
By lying to people.
Well, why do you think? I mean, you would think they know better.
Because like you said, they're not used to this. This is all uncharted waters for them. They've never been in a situation where, some guy that they railroaded and terminated is now advising people on high-profile cases, involved in high-profile cases, of what the police are supposed to do, what the detectives are supposed to do in these situations, but they didn't do it.
So they've been just used to getting away with,
And
you
it's the
know.
same kind of stuff that Ike was complaining about on the night this all started. You know, um, so they don't know what to do. It was a bit of a knee-jerk reaction. Let's call him down and try to get in his ear. We'll tell him to stop listening to DiMaggio. We'll tell him to stop going on the podcast, and everything will go nice back to the way it was before. Well, no, that's not the way it works, because people are not stupid and people are tired of you guys.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
And then she called in and find out, follow up, say, hey, I'm just giving you a call. You didn't return my call. Did you see about the cameras? Right.
Yeah. Well, maybe they could do that. I don't know. I kind of advise all the areas to stop talking to them, because all they're going to get is bullshit. But Tony's on his own man. He can do what he wants. And,
Yeah. I would. I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know what they got going on, but I would definitely, if they don't have, get an attorney, and I would definitely want my attorneys to try, subpoena those footage. I'd definitely be filing a lawsuit.
So I just sent you something, but before you pull it up, do you have it? Before you pull it up,
I'm going to check real quick.
I'm going to give you a little backstory.
Yeah.
What it is that we're about to look at, right? So Louis Venturino, he spent his last few years on the job as a detective sergeant for no other reason. He was a detective sergeant for no other reason that he had other than he had powerful friends in the department. The mayor has been in bed with the Olsenettes basically since he became the mayor of Yonkers back in 2012.
Right.
He's had this political and financial arrangement with Keith Olsen, who, in my opinion, is the most powerful guy in the Yonkers Police Department, by way of his very cozy relationship with the mayor. Mueller was rising through the ranks for the same exact reason. Somebody told me that they made Mueller he was the last guy got made on the captain's list, and they only made him because of his relationship with Keith Olsen. I don't know if that's true or not, but they definitely made him a chief because of the mayor's relationship with Keith Olsen, and they definitely made him the commissioner for that exact reason. The guy's a zero.
No, I mean, a lawsuit, I'm sorry, it's not about the money. It's about being able to have subpoena power. So when you're in a lawsuit now, you have to gather evidence. Their attorney could then request the footage, right? And because they can do it through a FOIA request, maybe, but they don't get stuff like that. But so through your attorney, you'll have subpoena power. Then you can, So that's why I say that. Obviously the money.
So Louis Venturino, he made detective sergeant, and when you make detective sergeant, you get a take-home car, like we were just talking about,
right
on the last podcast that you did. I was chiming in. You get a take-home car, and you can drive it pretty much anywhere, without restriction, especially when you're a made guy like Louis was. Now, Louis was always, and when I say always, I mean always, up at Mosiello and Sons Jewelry Store up in Ardsley. Now, Mike Mosiello is the director of the Office of Emergency Management here in Yonkers.
Is that
good guy?
How does he look?
Guy. Well, how does he look?
That's the big guy. Who's the big guy?
No, he's short, Mike.
That wears the pants all the way high.
I don't. No. Mike wears suits.
That guy killed the deal for me one time in Yonkers. I was so pissed.
Mike and Brian run the family jewelry store up in Ardsley, up on Somewhere River Road. And Mike was actually a cop for, I think, a year, a long time ago, and he ended up quitting to go run the family business. And Brian fixes watches back there and things like that. So the Mosiello brothers, they're good guys. They come from a good family. Their father, I think, was Lou. I think he's a retired cop. I don't know him. I think my father knows him. But they're very steamed up with the Spanos. Mike, through whatever political arrangement, for whatever reasons, was appointed as director of emergency management before COVID. And that office is now down on Somewhere River Road by the Homefield Deli. Used to be down in I Park. But they have the jewelry store. And in the back of the jewelry store, they have a big office with couches and desks and 2 Nestle water jug dispensers. The water jug's full of Tito's vodka. They sit in there. They get shit-faced. They smoke cigars. They call it the lounge. So everybody knows. I've been in there. Been a lot of years. I'll probably never be there again, I'm sure. But it's they call it the lounge. And this is where Lou Venturino was all day, every day, always, whether he was on duty or off duty. It didn't matter. Louis. They call him Louis the Liar. He's an angry drunk. Always shit faced. You know what he's doing right now? I do.
I
It's
mean,
like
this
that.
is,
You know what I mean?
and he's going to be getting into a vehicle. I would
He's going
imagine
to be
after
getting into
that.
a city vehicle. He, like I said, he has a
A city
take-home
vehicle.
car. So he's driving to and from the detective division or to and from his house or wherever, always at the lounge. Okay. I've spoken to people who have seen him there within the last couple of years. Always there. And he's driving drunk in a city vehicle, no doubt about it. When I say drunk, I mean drunk, you know. Like I said, they have water jugs full of Tito's vodka in this lounge. And yeah, it's a good jewelry store. They got a lot of nice things in there. If you want to go in there and shop around it, it really is a nice place. I bought a few things there myself. So you pull up what I just sent you, and we'll take a
Yeah,
look at how it applies to what I'm talking about with Joe Mock. Right. So in March 21st of 2020, Mosiello and Sons, they held out for a while everyone else was closing, because of COVID, and they did finally close March 21st. They go on and they make this announcement. Point information. Unfortunately, we will be closed after today until further notice. We hope to be back soon, and we'll keep you updated. If you have something urgent, blah 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 blah. All right, 20 comments and 4 shares. If you want to scroll down, we'll go straight to a main. So Carmen, I guess, cried. Her and
my friend Carmen. Carmen, how you doing? Buenas tardes.
Yeah,
mami.
And there were a bunch of other people. You can keep scrolling down.
Roseanne Gallego. Look at that. I can't believe it. Wow, I'm glad you're sharing this. Roseanne Gallego is actually being sued by Mike Cater. She's in the lawsuit. She's the one that filed for the Committee for Better Yonkers that's tied to Nick Spano. She's very close with Nick Spano.
Oh, yeah. Well, the Mosiellos are political. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Roseanne again.
Yeah.
And Carmen. Chris Hutter. Yeah. John Paul.
Now, there goes my buddy Joe Mock's comment. So
I
LV,
know. Oh, Joe Mock. I don't know him, but I see him all the time. He's not a good guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a bad guy. But what I'm trying to prove here is that he's not much of a supervisor. He's not much of a chief. Okay. So LV, meaning Lou Venturino, will have to stay home. Ha ha ha.
Wow. Look at that.
It's the biggest joke in the world that the guy is up there shit-faced over.
Yeah, he's got 4 laughs.
4 laughs. Yeah, and I think I showed who those were too. If you want
Keith Olsen.
Now Keith Olsen weighs in, and this is the chief. This is the guy who, if Louis Venturino is driving around shit-faced in the city vehicle all the time, well, there's nobody else who should be doing more about it than Joe Mock. Not only is he not doing shit about it, he's taking to social media to laugh about it.
Joe, it's not funny. People are dying. They're getting hit and killed here with drunk drivers, Joe, and you're police officers. Wow.
Yeah, so let's scroll down a little bit, and I'll show some of the reactions.
This is what I'm talking about, folks, with these social political elites. Romano. Anybody recognize that last name?
I know Michelle. She's not she's not political around here.
It's a Romano.
And if you go down, I think one more page. All right, now look. Now stop with this guy, Phil Malaya. I don't know who that is.
The Lounge too.
The Lounge too. Yeah. So when the jewelry store closes, what else closes? The Lounge, where Louis Venturino is in there all day. As Joe Mock seems to know well. And what's he doing in there? Well, he's not there because they have a Pac-Man arcade in the corner that he can't walk away from. He's in there chilling.
Did they ever do an event with with Mario, the baseball player, the pitcher?
Rivera?
Yeah, Mariano Rivera, whatever his name is.
Mariano Rivera. I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, possibly. He's been to some of the golf outings and things like that. So this Phil Malaya fella, I don't know who he is. Oh my God, mind blown. The Lounge, which never closes.
Well, he's just proving that what you're saying is true.
It's closing now? Yeah, right. So now let's go down to the replies. LV will have to stay home. And then Keith Olsen responds, we better call Autumn. You know who Autumn is? Autumn Edwards is she's a detective. She's the head of the peer support unit. peer support unit. So when there's some sort of a tragic incident or something, or somebody has some sort of emotional issue that they need to deal with, they're supposed to be able to call out to Autumn and everybody who works under her in the peer support unit. So what Keith Olsen is saying is that LV is going to have to be so distraught. He's going to be so distraught that he actually has to leave the lounge and stop getting shit-faced. At least not in the lounge anymore. He'll have to go home and do it. He's going to be so distraught that he's going to have to call Autumn for counseling.
Wow.
So it's a
Do
big
you
joke.
see this?
It's a big joke. The guy's shit-faced all the time. He's driving around in a city vehicle. And his chief, his bureau chief, thinks it's hilarious. So does the PBA president. So does the leader of the peer support team. Autumn, I heard, actually tracked down a police parking placard lately, probably recently. Probably the only bit of investigative work she's done in her whole career.
So you're telling me really quick. So, okay, Joe Mock here, there's a lounge in the back of this jewelry store that Louis Venturino would hang out at all day, every day, getting shit-faced drunk, as you say, drinking alcohol, a police officer on duty, right? And everyone knows about it. It's not a secret. Police know about it. He's driving home in a city car drunk. Okay, this is the problem we're having here. And then they make a joke when the guy says he's shutting down his business, which includes that lounge in the back where they drink and smoke cigars. They make a joke about it. So Louis Venturino will have to stay home now. And Keith Olsen, the Yonkers PBA president, police officer, says we better call Autumn, who deals with distraught individuals. Jokingly, because he's going to be distraught that there will not be his favorite hangout, drinking spot, watering hole, if you will. But they know that he goes home drunk in a city vehicle, and they joke about it. Autumn, you know too.
If you're not going to do anything about it, because he's a made guy, that's one thing. But to take to social media and just joke about it openly, it's just such a such a boob.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's not cool when you have the incident with CJ Hackett. It's not cool when you have CJ Hackett's family, in this pain that they're in, searching for answers, asking the very police officers that are making jokes about a man who's an officer who drinks and drives. And so, if this didn't happen, if CJ Hackett incident didn't happen, if others didn't happen, okay, well, I mean, but people are getting killed because of drunk drivers that are connected to the city. I just think that's crazy.
And when I played that voicemail for people before I started sending it out, via text message, via email to people, I had it in my phone and I would run into people and they're like, "What's going on with you?" I said, "Here you go, listen to this." And they would laugh. "Oh, he's drunk." Yeah, he's drunk. We all know he's drunk.
So isn't there some kind of like culpability, some kind of like like you're part of this? If this guy were to have gotten into an accident and hurt somebody badly or kill someone, would they be knowing this? Could this be presented in court or anything? I mean,
it would be. They would. Yeah. Oh, probably. Yeah. Absolutely. But it just goes to show you the guy's judgment.
It goes to show a culture to me. This is why I'm stressing it, because this is a culture of this type of behavior. And that's not okay. And I'm not saying this with the newer guys. Obviously, these are the older guys. These are more, it's just a culture that's not okay.
It goes to show you the way Spano does things. Joe Mock is in the position that he's in because he's a yes man. Because he lacks spine. It's not despite lacking spine. It's because he lacks spine. So he doesn't give any resistance to any bad ideas that are coming from up above. Now, I don't have anything personal against Joe. I really don't. He hasn't even been on my radar. I haven't been thinking about him at all. But if he's going to talk shit about me to people, try to discredit me, look in the mirror, buddy. Look in the mirror. Okay, I'm not the problem. You're the problem. I curse at my daughter's mother, and I will probably until the day one of us is dead. Because she's a pain in the ass. And there's nothing I can do to make her less of a pain in the ass. So as long as she remains said pain in the ass, I'm going to talk to her like one. And she's going to talk to me like one. And we're going to do that dance probably for years to come.
Well, that's your business.
It has nothing to do with my job performance.
Right.
You know what I mean? I would never do something like this.
I mean, you have somebody, you're admitting that the cops are corrupt.
I'm saying it's an aptitude. It's an aptitude at the highest levels. Don't get pulled over by a cop tomorrow and start giving him shit because of this podcast you saw last night.
Right.
The Yonkers cops are good cops. I think Keith Olsen was right when he said the Yonkers Police Department is the best department in the country. Okay, every organization has some problems, and in my opinion, in the Yonkers Police Department, the problems are all at the top of the department, not at the bottom.
Yeah, and you can't be completely the best until that problem is rooted out. It's resolved.
You know, you need a mayor who doesn't have to micromanage every position within the city and position every piece in a way that brings him maximum political patronage and support. He needs to appoint people who know how to run the department and will run it the right way without his micromanaging it.
Right.
Like Chucky Gardner. Now, look, these are some of the reactions. You know, Anthony Chiarella. You see that name there? Anthony Chiarella?
Yeah.
Okay. He's laughing at Joe Mock's comment. Anthony Chiarella was one of the 4 dudes in all of those pictures that I sent you. He was the detective lieutenant at the job that John Morello does now. That was Anthony Chiarella's at the time. He was Louis Venturino's direct supervisor and dear friend. Okay. So if there are any 2 asshats in the department who should probably step in and do something about this moron driving around shit-faced in the city vehicle, it's these 2 guys. But what are they doing? They're on social media laughing about it instead.
Unreal. Susan Pinto, you know that name?
Yeah, I know Sue. Sue's a doll.
I just heard that name.
She's a retired Yonkers police sergeant.
Oh, okay. Some reason that I heard that name. I got to go back to why I heard that name.
James McCauley, he's another one. He's another, Olsen, Keith Olsen lackey, I guess you could call him. You know, so it's really not funny, but I think it is. When I saw this, I was not friends with the I was not following the Mosiello and Sons page on Facebook, and I'm still not. I'm not friends with them. Someone who caught this alerted me to it.
So it's not like it's you. It's just other people are seeing this. They see this, and this is just not. I mean, it's just not okay, to joke about it. As a police officer, and that people are driving drunk. It's just not funny, especially at this time, this moment now.
Right.
But what's happened? That's crazy.
Right. And this is the guy who, I'm not going to say the name of this person, but Joe Mock, when Tony Solieri went down there, he pulled this cute little trick that I don't know why he thought that this was going to make any kind of a difference, but he called someone who's, well known locally, a civilian involved in politics, and, it's pretty known that this person is loyal to the Spanos. I'm not going to say the name on the podcast, but Joe Mock decided to call this person and basically have this person talk to Tony Solieri and vouch for his character, vouch for Joe Mock's character. Like, he called this person and handed the phone to Tony and said, "Here, tell." Well, I wasn't going to say it, Tom. Yeah. So he called Miss Nolan and basically said, "Here, tell Tony that I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread." And so she did. But he saw through that. He knows Donna's political. He knows that she's, steamed up with the Spanos, and
she sure is. She got Mark Stang to drop out the race for District 15.
Right. I mean, I don't know her. I have nothing against her.
Yeah.
It's a stunt. It's a stunt. Everyone knows that Miss Nolan is, sympathetic to your guys' cause, or however you want to say it. She's in with you guys. So what is that worth? And Tony knew it. He told me. I said, "Well, from what I understand, yeah, she's riding a dime with them, with the Spanos." And so I don't think that's worth anything, to be honest with you. Not to say that she's, not a credible person or anything like that. I don't know her personally, but it's just it's a see-through kind of a stunt,
right?
And to me, if Joe Mock is going to play these games with me, where he tries to make me sound like I'm not credible and that people shouldn't listen to me because for all these ridiculous reasons, well, that's a 2-player game, Joe.
You're right. I mean,
and I can keep going if you want to keep going. I would suggest you just start answering questions about the case and stop trying to shit all over me.
So look at this, folks. I mean, look at this, Yonkers. I just want to kind of sum this up really quickly. You had this police officer that you've had, detective sergeant that you got into an issue with, which was the cause or, what led to your retaliatory Termination. Louis Venturino is his name. A man that would go and sit at the back of a jewelry store, which way they created this makeshift lounge, and they would get shit-faced drunk, driving a city vehicle, shit-faced drunk. Everyone knows this. Everyone's knowing this. Joe Mock, this guy knows this. They're making jokes about it on social media because it's going to close down. And then look at what happened here with CJ Hackett, and then now we're questioning whether or not police gave him time to clear his blood, whatever was in his blood. And then they call Tony Solari down. When he starts to speak out about it, he comes on my podcast, right? And then when they call him back down to the police station, who do they get on the phone? Donna Nolan.
That's what I was told.
What is Donna Nolan doing involved in this at all?
Well, they used her as a character reference.
No, I get it. I understand. But what kind of work? I mean, what? This is like like one of them a television show, right? Why would Donna Nolan? In my mind, I just don't think that that's any professional that has anything to do with an investigation at all. She shouldn't even be involved and called up for this. She's not privy to information that other people are not.
Right. And I want to send you something else that I just thought to send you. I got this off of the.
I've only met the woman twice at church, CJ's funeral, and the day they added more charges to James Dolan. I mean, Stephen Dolan, you mean, right? Because James Nolan, and I say sometimes Stephen Dolan, Nolan. James Nolan and Donna Nolan is the mother of county legislator James Nolan, who is running for re-election in District 15. And there's a whole thing with that I spoke about with Mark Fang, and she has steam. She definitely has steam, Donna Nolan. She got Mark Fang to drop out that race.
So I just sent you something else. Let's take a look at it real quick. This is on the day.
What a city we live in.
This is on the day. This picture is. I got this from Pat. Don't freak out. I don't. Surprisingly, Pat has yet to delete me as a Facebook friend. I'm friends with Pat on Facebook. I think that's coming any day now. But I won't delete you, Pat. I got nothing against you. You know what I mean?
You ever watched the movie The Lost Boys?
I just want him to know. Yeah, that was a long time ago. But I want Pat to know that this picture we're about to show, I did not get it from your Facebook page. I got it from. I followed the police department on social media, and this picture was posted by the department the day my good buddy LV retired. So this is Pat McCormick on the right. That's LV.
All the way on the right here?
Yeah, that's Pat. Right. This is LV in the middle. Pat. Loverboy in the middle. That's on the left. That's Dom Monaco. That is he's now the executive lieutenant of the detective division. He's Joe Monaco's younger brother. He's Chief Monaco. Joe Monaco is the chief. Pat McCormick is the captain. And the executive lieutenant, the second in command, is Joe's younger brother, Dom. He was one of the guys that was down at IED as a sergeant, sitting across the table from me while they were trying to end my career. Now, this is the last day. This is Louis' last day. This is the same day Mueller retired. All of his protection, the majority of his protection.
He said, I'm out of here. I
Mueller
can't drink and drive anymore.
Right, so he's retiring too, right? He's going to have to drink and drive in his own car now. So if you see what's going on in this picture, Pat is actually using his right hand to hold Louis up from the back because Louis shit-faced. No, I'm kidding, but that's, I make a joke. But look at his face. I mean, he's always drunk.
No, I thought that immediately when I saw the picture. I might have mentioned that I ran into her at the courthouse, but when the chief called her, she urged me to stop coming on your show or anybody else's show because it could hurt the case.
It's not going to hurt the case. You know where it might cause problems is with jury selection. That's it. But it's like, because they'll say, oh, have you seen these podcasts? They'll ask the jurors.
Well, that's why I should get it out of Westchester then. More reason.
Well, I mean, your podcast, the last one did like 1,200 views. It'll probably end up doing somewhere in the area of 2,000. This one might do some, but it's not like 200,000 people are watching it, so it's not going to F up the jury selection that much.
Right.
The case itself, Dolan's attorneys are not going to. I would be very surprised if they brought this up. They don't want any attention anywhere near the idea that he was probably guilty of worse. But this is it. This is made guy LV. He's of absolutely no value to anybody. Detective sergeant, basically because just who his friends are. He wouldn't pee on the guy if he was on fire. But Pat McCormick goes to social media and basically and basically goes on a rant about how he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and you're gonna miss him, and illustrious career, and blah blah blah. Blah. Please, bro, please.
Begging.
Oops, sorry.
Well, you got the.
We are the real benefit here. We are.
You got the soundbite.
I don't know where I put it. Yeah.
Begging. Let me.
Where I put it at? I was gonna.
Anyway,
I don't know.
You got to clean up that soundboard, bro.
I got so much.
Anyway, look at Don Monaco. Looks like he just smoked a wacky tobacco. Look at Joe's younger brother in this picture.
This guy here?
Yeah.
Is he known for smoking a wacky tobacco? You're referring to a joint?
No, Dom is a good guy. He's a good dude.
You all think about CJ's family, but also think about Tony's family. His son witnessed the incident. Nobody knows what's going through his head right now. No, definitely, absolutely. I mentioned that actually in the past podcast when I spoke about the incident. That definitely is traumatizing to AJ as well. He was left there alone by Stephen Dolan. The guy stopped, looked back, saw what he did, and took off, and leaving AJ there with his friend alone to have to pull his pants up because his pants were down, folks, after he was hit. And call 911, scared to death, teenage boys. And these are the detectives. These are guys that are tasked with helping us in this situation, guys. But you're too busy getting drunk. You're finding the vehicle 3 days later. Come on, Pat.
And do you know why? Do you know why it's like this over there in the Investigations Bureau? Because it can be. Because there's no scrutiny of anything. Because when people think we have to watch the cops and keep holding the cops accountable, they're talking about the uniforms.
Right.
People don't realize that they're not even the most powerful cops.
Right.
Uniforms.
So there you go, folks. I mean, again, you have to think about these individuals that are at the top. We often look at the patrol guys, the guys in the uniform. They get all the hate. They're the ones that get yelled at and cursed at all the time on the street every day when they're doing their patrols. But meanwhile, the ones that are really, creating this type of culture are the guys at the top. The guys that, curse out other cops like Anthony DiMaggio, even though they're their subordinates. He's the commanding officer. Donna also reached out to Yvonne, CJ's mom, and told her that my sister and I are crazy and gave her some bad advice. Miss Hackett will be commenting in the next 5 minutes. Why would
we gonna leave?
Why, I don't know where I put your soundbite.
Why would you? I'll send it to you again.
I got it. How the heck I lose that, man? Crazy.
No.
Oh my goodness. That's very weird, but I had it.
I'm not sure that.
No, I had it here. I don't know where it went.
Let me tell you. Begging.
That's Tasha Diaz, folks. Look, this is Tasha Diaz.
Begging. You're one of them. Begging. What?
They would be the experts. If it were on hot dogs, yes.
Let me tell you, there's a lot of people that spoke today.
I don't know why I put that soundbite, but anyway, I wanted to play the soundbite that I have Anthony DiMaggio and the cop.
I have some of them here. Let me see. Just have to.
No, I got it. I got it in the email. I get the email. I just don't.
Give it to us straight.
Not long.
I'm a councilwoman. I know you. I'm hoping.
I don't know how I lost that.
Come on, give it.
Yeah, I don't know where I put it either. I'll have it for next time, though. That's for sure. We got to have that at the ready, man. And people need to hear that because that's like,
Oh, here we go.
Play this game, you're gonna lose it. I'll tell you right now.
That's this guy right here in the black. He left this message for Anthony DiMaggio, right? The night that this whole incident took off.
Hey, listen, I know you're a lieutenant, but you have a problem with the detectives, you call a detective sergeant. If you have a problem with that, you call detective lieutenant. I don't know who the fuck you think you are. Because you want to play this game, you're gonna lose it. I'll tell you right now. I don't know who the fuck you think you are. Save this message and play to whoever you want. Okay? There's a chain of command. If you have an issue with a sergeant, you call my lieutenant. If you have an issue with a detective, you call the sergeant. Don't answer my phone call. I don't give a fuck about you. Wake up.
Wow.
That's the Investigations Bureau for you, folks.
That's the guy in the middle here who retired with Mueller when he retired because, like you said, he lost his protection. And so he's not going to be able to get away with that kind of behavior, drinking and driving. And
so
it's crazy.
Before we go off, why don't we just take a look at, you could just start this right now because
crazy.
spoken about in my situation has thus far been the culpability of these idiots. Let's start talking about the mayor and why he's probably not going to do anything to try to stop these kinds of cover-ups from happening. So you know what? I didn't send it to you. I'm going to forward it over to you right now. This is going to be the first agreement that we're going to look at. It's not long.
Well, you want to pick that up on next week? I mean, just because we're over an hour here, and maybe mention a little bit about the mayor. I don't know if you want to mention.
Okay. Do you want to do that? Do you want to pick it up?
Yeah. Let's just start next week. It's go over an hour now.
Yeah. All right.
But the mayor definitely is going to always cover it up. I mean, he relies on these guys too. They're kind of like his soldiers, you know, out there, and so he looks out for them, has their back, and they're going to do, I guess.
Well, he's responsible for them being where they are in the positions that they're in. So what's he going to do? I mean, you know, well, how did these guys get here? Oh, I put them there. You know, like.
But he knows how they are before he puts them there. I mean, look with Mueller. Sure. But he still makes that choice.
He doesn't care what they do or anything. He says as long as they'll just do what he says and not question him on anything and not fight back or anything like that. Those are the kind of guys he looks to put in those positions.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is what's created this culture here where, you know, you have officers that, you know, do that. So you said he probably was in the back of that jewelry store that night when he left that message, or, you know, when they called him and bothered him. Right.
Well, he used to drink down at the detective division too. I actually saw him doing that one night. He actually tried to get me to join in with him. That's when I first made lieutenant. But I said no thanks. You know, I had just started work at 10 o'clock at night, and I was working in central booking. I said, let me stretch my legs. I'm going to go walk over like 12:30 at night. And he was down at the detective division in the supervisor's room, all the way at the end of the hall, with the bottle right on the desk. I don't even know what it was. And whack. Come on, have some with me. Come on.
Wow. Well, what if you were to have to respond to an emergency or something?
No, I was working up on the top floor in the jail. I was working on a desk.
No, but I mean, I'm talking about this guy, Louis. But you know,
no. Yeah, detective sergeant, never. You don't have to respond to anything. No, because he had gotten off his shift at probably midnight that night, and he was sitting around waiting to sign jobs that other detectives were writing. It's called going extended. If you have to stay past your tour and write reports, or you put in for overtime.
I got you.
And so he was just sitting around. He was just sitting around waiting to sign reports, probably, and sucking back. I think it was whiskey.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy. Anyway, folks, Anthony, thank you very much. We'll pick up tomorrow and start with that right away from the beginning of the podcast, so we can get right through it and get all of it in, for the entire hour there. Send anything they need to me beforehand, so I guess if I have it and I'll have it ready. But thank you, folks, for watching tonight. Anthony DiMaggio, I appreciate you joining me. I'm about to get up out of here. And to the Hackett family, you want to reach out to me at politicwithfred@gmail.com. Take care, Anthony. Have a good one. We'll be in touch. Right, folks, I'm Freddie Vasquez. That's Basement Politics Unfiltered. That's Anthony DiMaggio. Next week, we're going to pick up, you're going to start going over and showing you the corruption, the lies. He has the documentation. And so it's kind of a slow build up to, where we at today and what's going to be the next step. He's got legal counsel now, and he's going to be taking legal action. But what's important about and having Anthony DiMaggio and why I continue to do the podcast, because I want people to see a culture that has existed within the city for at least 12 years now, at least the past 12 years, a culture of corruption, nepotism, favoritism, and allowing people to get away with crimes, essentially, right? Committing crimes. I mean, driving drunk in a city vehicle, that's a crime. You're not supposed to drive drunk, and you're a law enforcement officer. You're supposed to be out there enforcing the law, not breaking the laws. Yet and still, we've seen that people have been able to get away with that because, again, of the culture that has existed here for the past 12 years, at least at the very, that comes from the very top, right? It's a culture that's created. Like if you own a business, if, I own my businesses, what I try to do is create a culture, especially with our daycare. We're creating a culture, right? That's very important. And, and you learn this in business school. What kind of organizational culture do you want, right, to have? And you want that to be a consistent culture throughout if you open up another location or whatever. So you have consistency, so you have an expectation of what, how people are supposed to perform. So what culture is it that we have here or had? And hopefully, as Anthony says, a lot of the older guys are starting to retire, not really a lot of them left with that old mentality, more the new younger cops, are a lot different. The department has greatly improved, right? And so I don't want to completely knock it, be negative. And shout out to the police officers that have a tough job. And he made a very good point in that it's not the not necessarily the uniform guys. They take all the heat, but again, it's this culture that comes from the top, this organizational culture that's created by guys like the ones we mentioned who have this mentality that they can do whatever they want. They feel invincible. I mean, they can go out and drink, drive a city vehicle drunk with a loaded weapon by their side. And they're not concerned at all with any consequences. And obviously, they were right, because there were no consequences ever levied against any of them. And they were able to retire with a full pension. Full pension, I'm sure, fattening up their last 3 years so they can, make their pension really nice and, lucrative. But yet and still they were just sitting at the lounge there drinking, right? Just like a gentleman that I mentioned who drove the mayor around. 5 years, made over $1 million, $1.3 million in 5 years as a police officer for driving the mayor around. And he was able to do that because of his close relationship with the Spano family. And I'm sure he was privy to things that he would not want people to see as the driver. And so therefore, for that, he's, taken care of. But that hurts us. That hurts the city. And as we see in the CJ Hackett case, that leaves people here in the city of Justice dealing with the loss of a loved one due to this culture, this negligence, this corruption. And then there's no justice followed up because they don't care to get any justice for the family. Their concern is covering it up. And so that is why it's important that I talk about Anthony DiMaggio's case. And I talk about some of the things that have happened to me, and I allow for others to talk about what's happened to them and put their stories out so that we can see that this is very real and that people are not crazy. And we need to change this. 12 years is enough. And I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics, and I'm here to bring change. And I'm here for the long run, for the long haul, I should say. So I'm every day, Basement Politics, and we're going to put the information out. So again, folks, if you have anything, reach out to me at politicwithfred@gmail.com. I don't know if Miss Hackett was going to come on and say something. I know you said she'd be commenting 5 minutes. But if she'd like to come on and just talk with me on the podcast here, she can come on now. If she like, we could definitely talk. She can reach out to me at politicwithfred@gmail.com. Or she can get my number. You guys can get my number from your sister, Tony. She can reach out to me that way on my cell. I'm here. If she'd like to come on and tell her side, talk about what she's going through. We don't even have to talk about the investigation. Just give, people an idea of what she's been dealing with emotionally, mentally, since, CJ passed away last August. And it's tough when you have to add, this to the fact that she lost her son. Now she has to deal with, police, not really being helpful, investigators not really being helpful and wanting to get justice that she deserves, that CJ deserves, that AJ deserves, that the Solari family deserves. It's very sad, and so that's why I want to talk about it. And I just think it's crazy that Donna Nolan is all in the mix of this. Why, Donna? I don't understand. This family lost their son. You should understand about that, and you should want you should understand about this family wanting justice. You as a mom who lost her son due to something tragic should be side by side with this family seeking justice. Don't you think? I mean, you can't just say, hey, I'm going to, this is the Spano and the city and, they hook me up or whatever. So, no, you should be fighting. This is no different than that, guy who shot the gun. Just as much as he deserved to go to jail, this gentleman deserves to go to jail. You want to see that guy rot in hell because he took your son's life. That's exactly how CJ's mom feels. And so instead of helping the individuals try and, smooth this over, you should be making lots of noise. Another mother lost her child. Somebody committed a crime that resulted in the loss of her son. Same as you. Don't you think you should be, calling Mike up, Mike Spano, say, hey, Mike, that guy needs to go to jail. What happened there? We want justice for CJ too. No one deserves more justice than another person. Every mother deserves the right to see justice served to the fullest. This should just go to show you what truly happens here in the city of Yonkers, the corruption. I mean, where does this happen? Why are they involving this woman, having her call this family? That's crazy. She should already be there, but in support of the family, saying, we want justice. And if they gave it to Donna Nolan, if they fought hard and worked with Donna Nolan to see to it that that guy that shot her son was caught and put in jail, and everybody made him the bad guy and posted his picture and said, that's the bad guy, we need to be doing the same for Steven, right? To Steven. That's the bad guy. He took a life. CJ was only 16. He didn't get to see his 20s. So we need to blast him too, just the same. Don't you think? It's not right. It's not right. Donna needs to mind her business. I was always respectful to her. My nephew was with AJ and he lost his friends to a drunk driver. You see, CJ, she really should be careful because all her dirt will come out. Who sold jobs and who took money and never got the people's jobs? What happened to the GoFundMe money? Don't talk about my family. We want justice, justice for CJ. And so this is why we need new leadership here in the city of Yonkers. We are a city that's divided. We need to be united. We need to come together. Look at this. This is what's happening here in Yonkers, right? We have people, regular residents, not politicians, going at it over things, that are involving politicians and city employees. I mean, this is crazy. This is unbelievable. But you're right. I think that, maybe Donna Nolan should not be the one that they call, the Yonkers Police Department call to reach out to this family to try and sell the police's story to them. When they just want justice the same way you did, Donna Nolan, the same way. And you fought hard, which you should have. But don't you think they deserve the same? Don't you think that that guy should rot in hell also? And don't you know that Tony Solari's son will forever be traumatized after witnessing his friend get killed, hit by a van driven by a drunk driver who works for the city, who happens to be connected? What about him? You're calling his dad crazy in this. Please make it a note that Donna Nolan family grew up with Mr. Hackett, so they are family friends. It's just sad. This is why we need new leaders, folks. We need to divide and heal this city. And we need to get the people that are not from here, that are coming out here just to be leeches, right? And just suck out our resources and take what we have. Our resources, I mean by our property, our land, by the water, our beautiful city that's going to be destroyed by people coming from out of here. We need new leadership. I'm Freddie Vasquez. I'll be out there knocking on doors. You ready to end this? My petitions will be available for your signatures. It's time. We need to get justice for all those, CJ, AJ, and everyone else that deserve justice. I'm Freddie Vasquez. United and heal. Absolutely. We need to unite and heal. But again, we can only do that when we vote for change. And we need to unite behind one person, one candidate. I think you guys know who that is. I'm Freddie Vasquez, Basement Politics. Thank you, folks. To the Hackett family, please reach out to me. I'm here for you. Anything you need. If you would like to talk, if you have more information that you want me to put out there, just let me know. politicwithfred@gmail.com. That goes for everyone. Have information? Having issues with landlord, with something in the city, something, and you need help, you turn to your elected officials and they have not done anything for you, give me a call. 914-437-0597 or reach me at politicwithfred@gmail.com. Tell me who it is and I will go see them. I promise you that. No, in a nice way. Just kidding. But I'm here to help. Utilize me. Thank you, folks.
Freddie wins. Fatality.
You're watching Basement Politics with my dad, Freddie Vasquez.
You're watching Basement Politics with my dad, Freddie Vasquez.
That's right, folks. I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics. Those are my two beautiful kids. Thank you. No, thank you, Tony. I appreciate it, but thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. And listen, like Anthony DiMaggio, this is not about me. I'm not here for me. I'm here for the people of the city of Yonkers. I want to be the voice of the voiceless. To the person that said that, I'll still give you the credit, even though I thought about it in the morning. So I would like to be the voice of the voiceless. I want to fight hard for those who are, have not been, that felt that they have not had, I guess, the power or the connections or the ability to fight for justice. This city is tough. Like if you're not connected, if you're just, you're not going to get a whole lot of help here. You have to be connected, or you have to make a lot of noise like me. You have to kick down the door. Otherwise, they're just going to ignore you, right? So I want to be the voice for those that are not, heard, the disenfranchised, the marginalized, those that have been seeking, the help of their officials and they have been let down, failed time and time again. That's who I want to be. So I'm Freddie Vasquez. Please sign my petition. Now I'll be coming around. I'll be knocking on doors. So you'll see me around there with my team of, I got 100 volunteers so far. That's right, Spanos. 100 volunteers. Imagine that, Vinny.
Freddie wins.
You were supposed to be the mayor, right?
Thank you for watching Basement Politics with my husband, Freddie Vasquez.
I am Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics. Have a good night, folks.
I was raised in housing. I don't think you were. I went to Yonkers public schools. I don't think you did. We can go on all night with this, honey.
Sure that my company.
Ruros, I'm going to be good with you. I just want to say this to Ruros, Yonkers voice. Listen, dude. I'm going to be good with you. You be good with me. Don't mention my name negatively. You can talk about me positively. You can tell the truth and be positive. Otherwise, don't mention me. I'm not going to mention you. But Brian has to not mention me either. Brian is you and you is Brian. So the both of you leave my name out of your pages unless you want to talk about me positively. Want to put the truth out there, then that's cool. The positives, right? But if you're making up things, negative things, coming at me, attacking me, that's different. I'm not going to say nothing about you guys. We don't need this division. We don't need any more distractions. We don't need the craziness. So please, I'm asking you both, keep my family and my business and me out of your blogs. And I will not mention the two of you, at least negatively. If I have something to say, it would be, in a positive way, I would imagine, if I have to mention your name. But if not, I won't say anything about either one of you. So we can do that. I think we can be okay. And that's what I like. So I'm reaching out to you this way because I know you watch. I know you guys pay attention to the podcast. So it's up to you. The ball's in your court. Whatever decision you decide, there will be an opposite and equal reaction. Understand? I don't know if it will be equal. I think mine will be greater. Peace or destruction. You choose. I'm choosing peace. I just want to focus on this campaign. And I know that you might get called upon to try and make me look negative in any which way, as you have done or have been before. I don't even need you to apologize for the lies. I don't need you to say nothing. No, I need you to say nothing. Don't say anything about me. I won't say anything about you. It'll be a peaceful thing. I want to focus on this campaign. I want to focus on making change here in the city of Yonkers. Thank you.
Freddie wins. Fatality.
No!
I want to say something else, but it's best not to, man. Peace. I want peace.